Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I look at 1996 Ultra baseball cards. And this is a set that has a lot of similarities to 1995. In fact, I'm going to do a video that compares 95 to 96 so that for the inserts, so that you know the difference between the cards so that when you pick them up, because some of these cards can be very difficult to read whether it's 95 or 96 on the logos. And so there can be a lot of confusion. So I want to really make sure that people know one to the other which one is which. Because really 95 and 96 Ultra was a transition in baseball where they came up with an idea and they played around with the idea, but they needed to make the shift into the next phase, which they wouldn't come up with until basketball later in 1996. So the 95 set and 96 set are really kind of the same thing in a way. The concept of what they did during this period was they wanted to do a parallel. Up until 1995, they had not yet done parallels for their Ultra cards. That just was for Fleer. For Fleer across the board, they weren't doing parallels until 1995 because inserts was the big thing. That was the whole point. And so by 1995, they realized they really needed to be doing that, and so they did. In 1995, they started doing parallels, and the idea was, at least for Ultra, the idea was that they wanted to do a gold medallion parallel where they replaced the logo with the gold medallion. Very basic. But by the time they got to football, that wasn't quite enough, and so they didn't just do a gold medallion. They did the whole background of the card was all gold foil with a big medallion in the back, so the medallion was basically the whole background of the card. It was a very bold move, and this was what they were going to use in basketball. And then by the time 1996 came around for baseball, that's what they did for the parallel as well. But the card itself for baseball is also very similar to the 1995 set. The 95 card and the 96 card, they have similar boxes down at the bottom with gold foil, except the main area of difference between the two is the fact that for 95 they use team colors down below, whereas 96 they just use silver. And everything is very thin. So the main cards are basically the silver cards, and then the gold parallel is the gold cards. That's kind of the way they did it. But that gold parallel was really, really bold, like I said. But also for 1996, they also added subsets, which they hadn't done in Ultra for a long, long time. And the first subset was Ultra Stars. This would end up becoming insert cards down the road, and very impressive insert cards. But for 1996, they were subset cards, and these were looking at star players who were really showing out. And in the case of Matt Williams here, if just in case you have some sort of an issue by the fact that Barry Bonds was the first San Francisco Giant to hit 62 home runs in a season, this story actually talks about how Matt Williams hit 62 home runs across a 162 game stretch. So technically he kind of pulled it off, but it was across 2 seasons. So kind of a cool story. And the gold medallion version of this card is actually different, where it has the stars in the background as opposed to a big gold medallion logo. So actually really kind of cool. And then the other subset that they had was Raw Power. And Raw Power is, it's a horizontal subset, so it doesn't quite fit in with the rest of the set, but that was the main set. And then they did not do checklists in the set. They saved that for an insert set. So there are 10 checklists in the insert set. It's a full bleed card, and they use gold foil for the foil on the front, where they just say checklist. On the back, of course, they have the whole checklist. But they also did a set for Series 2 that is numbered 1 through 10. Don't worry, those have silver foil on the front. So that's the difference. Series 1 has gold foil and Series 2 has silver foil. And these do come with the gold medallion parallel as well. So it is a 20 card set for the checklist, plus there are 20 gold parallels of them. But the gold parallel, you might notice, it's not the whole card, it's just the medallion itself. So they did it like they had done in 1995. In fact, that's the way that all of the inserts are done for 1996. That's part of what's so confusing. Now really, the only time they did the entire card with gold foil, even in football and in basketball, was in the main set. So it's not actually unusual that the insert cards have only the medallion itself. But just so that you know, it's only the cards in the main set that are the complete package. The rest of them I'll do have the little medallion replacing the logo. which we'll get back to that in time. But that was what they did for the main set and the checklist. Now, heading into the inserts, and there are a lot of inserts. The first insert set is Call to the Hall. This is a card that has an artistic rendition of a player who is a deadlock for the Hall of Fame. Isn't that ironic? Now, these cards absolutely look like they should have a canvas effect on them, which is something we would get used to later on. But in 1995, we hadn't done canvas surfaces on cards. So that was something that, for this card, it really wants to have that, and it just doesn't have it. But that's, that's the way that it is. And you might notice something interesting about the Medallion. The Medallion, I mean, not the fact that it's silver. We already saw that with the checklist. The gold Medallion logo here is not a solid disc. It's actually an outline. It's a really delicate, intricate logo. And that is something they would use from time to time in these inserts. Really cool how it looks. I do love the power of the solid logo, but the delicate one here, it's really pretty cool. Then they have Diamond Producers, and Diamond Producers absolutely comes across as a 1994 design, except for the fact that it's a solid holofoil card. And the holofoil effect is kind of underwhelming, but it is the dominant component to this card. And I wish I could say more about it, but yeah, it's there. It's a horizontal card, and it's basically a solid holofoil card. Yeah, that's about all there is to it. Then they have Fresh Foundations, and Fresh Foundations is very much it's also a 94, it's an earlier style Ultra card design. They made 16 to 17 different inserts for these releases, so you're gonna have to come up with a bunch of ideas. And this particular idea, which is kind of a hybrid of what they had done in the past, I think it comes through a lot better here, except for the fact that I really don't like all of the little silver foil text down the side that you basically can't see. Other than that, that's the reason that the card for me almost feels like it's an incomplete card. They just needed to do something more. But at any rate, for what it is, I guess it looks pretty good. Then they have Golden Prospects, and Golden Prospects is it's kind of the opposite. It's so much, and yet it's almost nothing. It's a picture of a player, and then it's a shot of the stadium behind. And they have some gold foil, and they have the team colors. But all of this is fighting each other to make a card that actually feels really cool and comes across really well. The biggest advantage the card has is the team colors over the entire card, which just gives you the feeling of that is the stadium that the player plays in. And you don't need to have anything identifying the stadium. The color does all the work. But also the gold foil it's so intricate that it kind of disappears. Everything's too busy and it disappears, but there's a lot of gold foil on it. This is a card where the gold Medallion, I think, just comes through so well because it's the one thing that actually stands out on the cards when it's there. It's a little bit too much, but I love the little bit too much of this card. Although, I do have to say that because you don't have a lot of cases of the same player, or the same two players on the same team in the set, it is kind of jumbled, but I don't mind it. In fact, I don't mind it so much, I'm not even done talking about Golden Prospects, because I also want to talk about Golden Prospects. They did a second Golden Prospects set. This is a standalone, kind of like with the checklist. They repeat the numbers. This case, it's obviously vertical as opposed to horizontal, but the big thing is it's an acetate card, but it's also a really intricate acetate card. It has holofoil in it, but there's an interlacing that goes on. It makes the card just look really cool. I wish I could have gotten the images to work right, but I couldn't quite photograph it in a way that made it look cool. So my apologies, it's just a still shot, but at any rate, they do have two Golden Prospects cards. And this is a case where it's real easy to forget that 95, or to get confused between 95 and 96, because the fact that you do have two 96 sets and they're both different can get you kind of thrown off. But these are the two 1996 sets. So there you go. And then they have Hitting Machines. And Hitting Machines, another 1995 card that they redid in 1996. In this case, it's a really intricate card because all the cards are die cut. And they're not just die cut, but they also have holofoil for the text, which makes this card really interesting. It's not the best card in the world, but it is one of the more challenging ones. These cards are extremely popular. I would love to show you what the gold medallion version of this would look like. I really wish I had the ability to show you what the gold medallion version of this card looks like. It's tough enough to get the base cards. So this is a very popular card, and it is very, very, very distinct for Ultra at this time. But if you think that's distinct, we've also got the Home Run Kings. And here, this is a card that actually has wood grain on the surface. Now this was about the time we were starting to see leather get integrated into cards as well. But wood grain on the surface of the card was a really unique effect that is really cool about these cards. It also means that the cards have a tendency to warp. So the cards don't fit. If you don't have it in some sort of a container, they will bend. They don't fall. I don't think they fall apart, but the warping is very dominant about these cards. But of even more significance is the fact that these cards were not available in packs. They had redemption cards that were available in packs, and that had a wood effect on the front, not a wood surface. But they were all sendaways, so if you got it, you got the ability to send it in and get that player back as the main card. But we're not done yet, because they also did promotional cards for these cards as well. And in this case, it says promotional on the front, and on the back it looks different. It's just an advertisement. So yeah, there's a lot going on with these cards. But if we want to get back to something more basic, we've got OnBase Leaders, and this is very much a 1995 design, but in 1996. So this is a 1996 card. And it's nice, it's kind of reserved. I mean, we've been through some chaos, so it is kind of nice to back off and take a pause. But at any rate, here is a pause from the chaos. And now that we've got this out of our system, let's move on to Power Plus. Power Plus is a case where this is, the 95 Power Plus cards are pretty cool. 96, you have a horizontal card with a lot of brushed metal on it, and really nice. I like the way the brushed metal is used. It has some really cool effects that they're playing around with. So yeah, pretty cool. The gold medallion as well, you know, etc. Yeah, I like these cards. Then they have Prime Leather, another horizontal card, and this has the effect of leather on the front. It does not have leather, but it looks, it's kind of a semi-glossy effect with relief. It's actually pretty cool. And they do have a big medallion for Ultra on the card, which is exactly where you would expect for the gold medallion to go, because that's where it always goes. Except in this case, they don't. They park the gold medallion in another place so that for the gold medallion cards, you have two Ultra logos on it. Pretty unique. But Prime Leather, keep in mind that this is different from Rawhide. Rawhide is a vertical card, and it has more of a glossy effect. So it's more like a brand new baseball mitt as opposed to a somewhat used baseball mitt that still has a glossy sheen to it. So it's, yeah, so there are these two completely separate sets. Then they have RBI Kings, which is a lot like the OnBase Leaders. It has more of a 95 look to it, but this is a 96 card. Silver foil as well, just like the OnBase Leaders. And then we have a standout card even in this set, which is the Respect cards. And Respect, this is a borderless shot, and it has relief for the word respect, but the big thing is it has a holofoil with a bunch of little stars speckled all throughout it. And that also fits for the gold medallion logo. So the medallion logo also has the holofoil effect of all the stars, which is a really, this is cool. I love the way they came up with this card, how they created it. It stands out to me as the most intricate and the most interesting card that they did for their whole release. So I really love these cards, and they're not that difficult to get. These were fairly common in packs, which is kind of surprising. Then they had Rising Stars, and Rising Stars looks like something straight out of 93, 94. This is a very simple, very straightforward card. It's more about the lacquered finish and the deep, rich darkness behind the player. Just gorgeous. I love the way this card comes out. To me, this is probably the most cohesive set because the background is so dominant in it. Yeah, I really love how it comes across. And then in case you were wondering about if they only did one acetate card, I know you weren't, but just in case you were, no, they actually had a second one, which was Season Crown. And Season Crown is this is actually a print surface. So unlike the spectral effect of the Golden Prospects, Season Crown is just a print, and the Gold Medallion is just a print on it, which is a huge letdown to a certain extent. It is, decent enough, but it's there. So they did do 2 different Aztec cards. But the last card set is Thunderclap. And Thunderclap is kind of a hybrid of the Rising Stars and the Hitting Machines, because it has a very dominant purple background, but they also have lightning strikes and some effects, all with holofoil, which makes this card extremely, extremely impressive. And just like Hitting Machines, very rare. So once again, I would love to show you the Gold Medallion version of it, because I would love to be able to show you the Gold Medallion version of it, and I absolutely can't. So, unfortunately, this is as far as we're going to get. But that is 96 Ultra. A lot of stuff, a whole lot. And again, I do want to do a video where I look at 95 versus 96 so that you know the difference between them, to use kind of as a guide just in case you're curious about which one is which. So to really break that down. Other than that, I think this is about all there is to say about 96. It was time for them to move on to the next design, which they were going to do. Other than that, thank you guys very much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Check out my other videos. Thank you very much.